Our digestive system works in an amazing way, and fortunately, we don't really have to think to make it work. It just happens. Thanks to the nervous system. The process of digestion starts right in your mouth immediately after the food intake. Once it passes through the mouth, it goes through this long pipe where it is broken down into tiny parts and is absorbed into the body. And to help the food break down, there are a few digestive glands that aid the process. Wait, did I just say that this entire thing is one long pipe? Yes, it's just one pipe and it's called the alimentary canal or the digestive tract. Yes, this thing starting after your mouth, which goes on right till the end, is just one long pipe, which has a modified structure depending on what your body needs. Think of it as a balloon. When it's not inflated, it looks like this, but it can be inflated and given various shapes and sizes. But it is still just one balloon. Anyway, the mouth is where the digestion starts. Your teeth chew and crunch the food. Repeated chewing breaks the food down into tinier particles. Is that all that happens in the mouth? Chewing? Probably not. Our slimy saliva helps in breaking the starch in the food down to simpler substances. The saliva also makes the food easier to swallow by forming something called the bolus. A bolus is just like a sphere of food that can be swallowed and passed on further. But wait, where does the saliva come from? We have something called the salivary glands that secrete saliva. That's how simple the first phase is. Large pieces of food are broken down by our teeth after chewing, and the starch in the food is broken down with the help of enzymes in the saliva, which is excreted by the salivary glands. After this, the tongue pushes the food into this region. Yes, this region right here is called the esophagus. What happens here? Does any digestion occur here? Not at all. No digestion happens in the esophagus. It is simply a passage from the mouth to the next region, which is the stomach. Food is taken in, goes through the esophagus to the stomach. But does the bolus just roll down to the stomach due to gravity? Now this is what we really need to understand well. The bolus is propelled down by the esophagus. Yes, some movement here in this region pushes the food down to the stomach. What happens in the stomach then? In the stomach, the digestive juices mix up with the food and the protein particles are broken down. Yes, the protein is broken down. And where do the digestive juices come from? They are secreted by a particular gland, which we will look at later. We will look at all the parts individually in due course. I haven't drawn the liver, the pancreas, or the other glands. All this will be covered in great detail when we look at each part. Coming back to the stomach is also used to store food for hours. And with the help of the digestive juices, the bolus is converted into something called the chyme, which is passed on to the next region. And what is this next region? This region, which starts at the end of the stomach and ends right here, is called the small intestine. It is one of the most essential parts of the digestive tract. Two important things happen in this region. First, the fats, proteins, and starch are broken down. They are broken down with the help of juices secreted by the glands in and around the small intestine. Second, this is the first phase in which the nutrients are absorbed into the body. Don't forget, that is the main reason why the food is broken down, to assist its absorption into the body. So breakdown and absorption of nutrients happen in the small intestine. All the food that is not digested by the small intestine moves to the large intestine or the colon. Nothing much happens here actually, except for absorption. And it's not absorption of nutrients. It's mainly the water in the undigested food that is absorbed in this region. Yes, the water. What cannot be absorbed by the body is passed on to this part here. It's called the rectum. What's its function? The rectum holds on to the food that is not digested by this system. It is stored there until we decide to expel it from the anus. and this is referred to as expulsion or excretion. So this was the entire process. It was a brief about how the digestive system or the gastrointestinal tract works. All this sounds very interesting. But what's even more interesting is that if you are made to stand next to your straightened alimentary canal, this is how tiny you would look. Did you know that the average length of the alimentary canal in an adult is approximately 30 feet? That's about 5 to 6 times your height. And guess what? The so-called small intestine is close to 20 feet long, while the large intestine is approximately 6 feet long. The small intestine is not so small then. The small intestine is called so because of the smaller diameter of its passage as compared to that of the large intestine. Yes, its diameter is relatively smaller. And believe it or not, about 90% of the digestion happens in the small intestine and the rest happens in the stomach and the large intestine. Interesting, but again, there's a lot more we need to understand about each part of the tract. We will cover all the points over the next few lessons.